Well, unofficially, Marcus Freeman continues to prove himself as the second winningest coach on away from home since 2022, improving to 21-6 anywhere other than Notre Dame Stadium with a resounding 37-15 win for the Fighting Irish in the ESPN Game Day Nationally College Football Playoff Ranked showdown between the number 9 Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, the number 22 Pittsburgh Panthers, and Notre Dame wins 37-15 in a game that really was not as close as that final score and wouldn't have been as close as a 37-9 final score. I'm your host, John Brice. He's Drew Mentock. Our producer is Tom Zwiller. This is Irish Illustrated Overtime Live. Drew, your initial thoughts on today's game? Another dominant win for Notre Dame, not just eight in a row by 10 points or more, and Pat Narduzzi is left 0-5 against Notre Dame, losing those 5 contests 201-69 or by 26 points per game.
Really, it's just how dominant the defense looked throughout the entire contest. I mean, I think they ended up giving up 219 yards. The only touchdown came on the last play of the game, which really hardly even counts. So that doesn't even underscore just how dominant Notre Dame was. I think they, until the last drive for Pitt of the first half, they'd only given up 36 yards of offense. Jeremiah Love had outgained the entire Pitt offense until 2 minutes and 41 seconds left to go in the whole game. And he had 167 yards, so they only had 165 at that point. So really, there's some big plays late or in times where Notre Dame was playing off or playing some younger guys that Pitt got a lot of its yardage done. And Notre Dame's defense really shut down a Pitt team that was coming in ranking 6th nationally by scoring just under 40 points a game too. So this isn't some chump offense that they just kind of took it to. They went on the road against a decent Pitt crowd and they really shut them down. And the Fighting Irish offense also tried to set the Pitt defense up for some touchdowns, and Notre Dame held strong on all of those too. So just a really dominant defensive performance.
Yeah, a number of superlatives to go over for Notre Dame in this performance today, and then also a couple of bugaboos, another missed field goal, some more penalty issues, some of those not without controversy, but nonetheless some penalty issues. But on the line of your defensive notes there, Drew, here's my favorite of the day. At the end of the third quarter, Pittsburgh's 2 biggest offensive plays were a 27-yard pass and a 14-yard scramble by quarterback Mason Heinschel. So those 2 plays accounted for 41 yards. Pitt had 105 yards on its other 44 offensive snaps at that point in the game. So just a completely suffocating performance. It looked like Notre Dame had really gotten a bead on Pitt's offensive tendencies, and I thought Notre Dame did a great job as well of confusing Mason Heinschel, blitzing him, getting pressure on him from different areas of the field, and just finding ways to make him completely uncomfortable as he finishes the day 16-33 for 126 yards and did not have a touchdown pass. And then Pitt was forced to – the game was so out of hand, it turned to Eli Holstein, the guy that it had paid a ton of NIL money to before benching earlier this season just to finish out the game.
Yeah, and Heitchel was coming in completing 64% of his passes too. So yeah, I agree. Notre Dame pressured him well. Had 3 sacks on him in the first half, and I think even when he kind of escaped, sometimes he was having to make multiple guys miss just to get out of the pocket and kind of running back and forth. So I think maybe Notre Dame might have some feedback for its rush discipline to a degree, but also he was just kind of trying to make anything happen he could, and often even if he got away, it wasn't for too big of a gain outside of one of those that you noted. So yeah, they really made a true freshman quarterback who was getting a lot of love all day, all morning on College Game Day, and kind of leading up to this game, they really made him look like a freshman.
CJ Carr rushes for a touchdown. He throws for a couple of scores to Malachi Fields. Jeremiah Love uncorked the day scoring with a 56-yard gash right through the heart of the Pittsburgh defense. He could have run straight into the Allegheny River there, the way he dropped a spin move on number 23 for the Panthers and then never really broke stride in outgaining anyone. But I do want to note, and not all of these are offensive scores, but Notre Dame had scoring plays today of 56 yards from Jeremiah Love, Tay Johnson's 49-yard interception return, Malachi Fields' 25-yard touchdown reception, and Adon Schuler's 100-yard 2-point interception conversion return to give Notre Dame what was then a key 30-9 lead and just zap any semblance of life that the Panthers had. But Drew, big scoring plays. We expect chunk scoring plays from the offense, but we saw chunk scoring plays from both sides of the ball today for Notre Dame.
Yeah, Pitt almost had a don't bend but break approach a lot of today. And yeah, I mean that was that back-to-back sequence where, as you mentioned, Jeremiah Love's 53-yard, I think, or 56 yards, one of the 2-yard touchdown. Just made it like kind of easy. And as soon as he got to the second level, you knew he was gone. And then right after that, Tay Johnson's interception again. As soon as he got free, you're like, there's no one that's going to catch him. So you really saw maybe two of Notre Dame's most electric athletes on both sides of the ball. I would obviously say that Leonard Moore is Notre Dame's best player in the secondary, but he's definitely not the most athletic, because Leonard Moore, when he is reading things right and playing instinctually, you see him make those type of plays. So yeah, really big sequence that kind of just set it up. So Pitt was on their back heels the rest of the game, and it was really hard to see them coming back from that.
Yeah, and really it was Notre Dame scored the game's first 14 points in just 17 seconds of game clock after getting Jeremiah Love's 56-yard TD rush. The Irish kicked off to the Panthers. The Panthers' next play was Mason Heinzel's pick over the middle of the field into the arms of a waiting Tay Johnson, who broke very cleanly on the ball, stepped in front of it, and raced untouched 49 yards. That's really when a game changed. Even with the TV timeout after Notre Dame's first score, in a span of 16 seconds of game clock and approximately 4 minutes of real time, we went from kind of a sloppy, scoreless game midway through the first half to Notre Dame taking a double-digit lead that it would hold for the duration of the day. And then also, Drew, as we continue to chart the different things Notre Dame does well along this 8-game winning streak, and solidifying itself firmly inside the top 10 of the CFP rankings, we should note again another middle eight victory for the Irish. They outscore Pitt 14-0 in the last 4 minutes of the opening half and the first 4 minutes of the second half. The just before the half score coming on Malachi Fields' 25-yard reception, a great throw and a great individual play to get a one-on-one 50-50 ball for Malachi Fields in the front corner of the end zone. And then once again, Mr. Malachi Fields coming out of the half, capping off Notre Dame's opening drive, 9-play, 54-yard, 4:07 possession time on 4th and goal. Will Pauling ran a brilliant route. He made sure to provide traffic and clutter on the field without doing anything illegal. That allowed Malachi Fields to break into the right boundary. He catches it and scoots in untouched.
Yeah, definitely another huge day for Malachi Fields. His second straight game, he's gone over 90 yards. He just missed going to 100 for I think would have been the first time at Notre Dame. Finished with 7 catches for 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I mean, you really saw, and if CJ Carr, both times he got the free play, it seemed like he knew right where he was going, and he was just going to throw it up and let his guy go make a play. Danny Kelly, I do want to note that this is not a USC hat. This is a Roma hat, soccer Series A. So nothing to do with USC or American football at all. But yeah, definitely huge game for Malachi Fields, and you're really starting to see him emerge. And now I think he's had 5 touchdowns in each of the last 2 seasons at Virginia, so he's already matched that total for the year too. And really starting to emerge as this kind of crowded wide receiver room. We still really have those top 3 guys kind of sharing the load and the production. You're starting to see him kind of even pull ahead and be that big play threat guy. We kind of knew he would when Notre Dame signed him out of Virginia.
And as we talk about superlatives and elite performances on both sides of the ball today, and we will get to another red zone scoring failure and another missed field goal opportunity, and again, those penalties. Let's highlight the defense a little bit more. Jalen Sneed leads the team with 6 tackles. Tay Johnson, 5 tackles, as well as half a TFL and the pick 6. Here's what stands out to me the most, though, Drew. And typically, these numbers are very conservative immediately post-game and then go up over the weekend after PFF does its grading or Notre Dame does its own grading and review of things. But the Irish credited today with 10 quarterback hurries on the Pitt quarterbacks, along with breaking up 8 passes, intercepting a pass. Bryce Young will never have a better opportunity for an interception, if not a pick 6 interception, than the one that hit him in the face mask today. down inside the 15-yard line, which looked like it would have been a gateway into the end zone. But nonetheless, an incredibly active, swarming, harassing, disruptive Notre Dame defense today, Drew.
That's a great point by you, and also worth noting that of those 10 hurries, 3 came from Traore, 2 from KVA, and then 5 other players, I believe, had 1 too. So it was just a whole mix of guys getting in there. We also saw Schuler with the sack. Like, they really just made Heichel's day kind of miserable. And I agree. Like, usually you see 10 plus pressures or a lot more than that from Pro Football Focus. It's not usually what you see in the official stat book. Those are usually a lot more conservative. So I think that really just underscores how kind of hectic of a day was, and they don't usually assign more than one-on-one play. And Notre Dame had multiple plays where they had multiple guys pressuring Heichel and making him escape the pocket, or forcing him into a bad throw too. So if they were grading like Pro Football Focus, that number would certainly be much higher.
Yeah, Kingston Viliamawasa also credited with 2. I'm very surprised at this moment to see Adon Schuler only credited with 1. Notre Dame did some great stuff bringing Schuler off the edges today. He was very active in his pursuit, and I thought he got into Mason Heinchel's head a little bit early, and the Notre Dame defense in general. But I thought Schuler did, particularly with some of the ways he was able to disrupt things, how active he was, him getting into the backfield very early. I thought Schuler played a fantastic game to only be credited officially right now with 1 quarterback hurry, Drew.
Definitely. And just from the, Pitt's first drive was looking really successful until he had that big hit that dislodged the ball and set up 4th down. And that kind of really, I think, set the tone. And from that point, the defense just played lights out for most of the game too. So it looks like Pitt was doing something. And as we saw, in the second half against Purdue, Schuler brings a lot of that energy and really gets guys going. And when that happens, Notre Dame is the disruptive defense that they need to be, because they're going to give up some big plays and things like that, but they need to make negative plays, get their hands on the ball, which they also had 8 pass breakups today. In addition to, it's technically credited as 1 interception, but they had 2 when you count Schuler's on the 2-point conversion. So just a lot of havoc created by the Notre Dame defense today.
2 really good questions there from DL Cal and from Dan Kelly. DL Cal, yeah, there's got to be concern that 17 points or more were left on the field today. You needed to make that early field goal, not because you needed it in that game, but you need to make a meaningful field goal in a game before the calendar flips to December, and you might be kicking a field goal in a tense moment in a college football playoff game. And every moment in a college football playoff game is almost certainly going to be a very tense moment. Dan Kelly, I did not think at all that was a touchdown for Pitt. I thought his knee was down. I didn't think you could see the ball moving enough. He sort of had it pinned in his bicep and against his chest. I thought the announcers were a little over exuberant wanting to call that a fumble. And then I would need to double check the rule book and see if on 4th down you can advance a fumble forward. I'm not so sure that you can. So I think on a number of levels, the officials got that right, even though we were privy to the conversation in the replay booth that there were some people who believed very fervently that it should have been a Pitt TD because he had lost possession of it and then recovered it when he was on the ground and the ball was on the goal line. I did not. I thought they got that call right. I thought they got the roughing the passer call on Dallas Golden, I believe it was, late. I thought they got that very much wrong. I thought that this wasn't the worst officiated game I've seen this year, but there were some ticky-tack calls. But I thought also they did a smart job of not calling Will Pauling for offensive interference on the rub route. Again, as I noted earlier, I thought he ran it very brilliantly, created the type of clutter and traffic that is legal without making contact, and cleared the way for Malachi Fields. The same thing happened on Pitt's 4th down conversion. Maybe one of the only money downs that the Panthers converted on the day was when they had 4th and 6, and they ran a very similar route and got Des Reed open coming into the middle. And that's the game that Reed ended up re-injuring his ankle. But yeah, we definitely need to talk about that. I should have already noted it. Pitt started its day 1 for 15 on money downs, finishes just 2 for 18. That's 2 consecutive, if not more, great performances, Drew, by the Notre Dame defense on money downs. And that's when you make the money, and that's when you get off the field and let the offense make money as well.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to just all the havoc Notre Dame's making. You're making, I think, at least the first 4 or 5 third down attempts were all like, or I think they're averaging 9 yards per attempt too. So Notre Dame was getting them behind the six, keeping them back early, and I think that's something the coaching staff likes to preach. And I agree with that. That touchdown was short. I was shocked that the announcers were pushing that. To be honest, I thought as soon as they showed the first couple replays, that was clear, and I agree. He looked like he had, once he hit the ground, the ball didn't really move after he had it up here too. So I thought that was really interesting. They made such a big deal about that. When I felt like especially after we got to see inside the broadcast booth too, and hear their decision making process too. I thought that was pretty clear. So, and I agree, it's concerning the 17 yards. I mean, I'm not as upset by the fourth down pass attempt to Eli Raritan. I get why they do that because they have struggled in some of those short yardage situations. But at the same time, like Notre Dame should have won this game by 35, 40 points. So there's definitely more they could do. And those short yardage struggles continue. And at some point, that's probably going to hurt them in addition to the field goal kicking. I just don't know if, that was an ideal situation for Eric Schmidt. It was a little further back. Maybe he doesn't have to think about it as much. And to his credit, the kick was better than the 35-yard attempt against Boston College. But until you see, he's now 0 for 3 on the season too. At least he made all of his extra points. But unless Noah Burnett can somehow get healthy and get his confidence back, I'm not entirely sure that Notre Dame's going to have a reliable kicking game this year, even though, especially since they can't add people from like the men's tennis team or soccer team. I don't know if you saw that, but the men's tennis team was drilling field goals in a video they posted on their social media too. So clearly there might be some decent kickers on campus, but right now there's not anyone to have a confidence in on the football team.
Interesting. I had not seen that, Drew, but good looking out by you, and certainly good for Ryan Sackire and his staff running the men's tennis program. He's an elite human being. So good to see him having some fun with his Irish tennis players. You do have to be concerned. You also have to be realistic in that Notre Dame went into a hostile environment, sold out crowd. Pitt had a week off, so 2 weeks to prepare for the Irish. And again, in the blink of 17 seconds of game clock, 4 minutes of actual time between TV breaks, Notre Dame turns a scoreless game into a 14-0 lead, never leads by fewer than 11 the rest of the day, wins by 22, has won 8 consecutive games by 10 or more. Just a dominant performance. And again, as we've alluded to, you want to clean up some of those mistakes, especially 10 games into the season. But when you have a dominant performance like this, and you can go quickly to the video if you're Marcus Freeman or Chris Ash or Mike Denbrock and say, yeah, guys, we won. Look how much we didn't do right. Look how much we left on the field. Look at how much our lack of composure late in the game cost us to even allow Pitt to break double digits and give any semblance that this was anything other than a dominant pull-away win for Notre Dame. So a lot of teach tape out there. Drew, what are some other elements of the contest that stood out for you? And then we'll go over some of those penalties and some more of those miscues for the Irish, and we'll also kind of update today's college football action and bring you up to speed on a couple of upsets that don't directly impact Notre Dame, but ultimately they're good news.
Well, maybe we should get to this later, but I just want to note Pat Narduzzi, not a great look for him all around this week, with the comments about he doesn't care if they lose by 103, and then they come out and just, again, Notre Dame should have won this game by 40, weren't all that competitive. And then going for it late in the game when the game was over, calling a timeout with, 2 seconds left to try and get over. At the point they were at 198 yards, trying to go over 200, and then they end up scoring the touchdown with their backup quarterback. So just kind of some head scratching decisions this week, and maybe that played really well into Notre Dame's favor, because they definitely got the big win they need. With there's still a lot of doubters with that 0-2 start. You have a lot of people maybe advocating for teams like Vanderbilt and some other 2-loss, 1-loss teams that are behind them, and to go out against a team who is still potentially in contention for the ACC, just kind of knock them out of the game in the first half and get that big win, I think is huge. Also, this is the most rushing yards Pitt had given up all year. just by one. I think West Virginia had 174, Notre Dame got 175 today. Jeremiah Love obviously having some big runs, but really just kind of did everything they needed to do. Another thing, I'm sure we can talk a little bit about it, but another up and down performance kind of from CJ Carr. Obviously had some big throws. You saw a lot of the things he can do, but then, two pretty disastrous plays that against a better team will probably cost him. I mean, that pick six was bad. And he probably, on the first interception, he should have seen that guy. And I mean, he made a good play, but that also, set up Pitt's other score when the game mattered too. So that CJ Carr kind of gave Pitt 9 points. So that's something to note.
Yeah, no, that's important to note. And you don't want to see your quarterback going through growing pains. They're going to be inevitable when you're a redshirt freshman and everything is a new experience. And this is still another new experience for CJ Carr, starting this type of game on the road at noon in that kind of hostile environment. But they weren't catastrophic. You still won the contest going away, and then you still get to say, CJ, let's figure out what went wrong. What were you seeing there? I think we had said on the Irish Illustrated Insider Thursday, Drew, that we thought Pitt would do some stuff, defensively that could confuse CJ Carr a little bit, and we saw that a little bit today. He's had some interceptions where he's forced throws. We've not seen him seem so surprised and throwing it directly to guys the way he did a couple of times today.
Yeah, and to his credit, he was pressured more than he has been in recent weeks. Certainly, I mean, he got beat blindside a few times that he could have been hit a lot worse, including at the end of the half. I agree that wasn't a fumble, and I thought the refs were right not to even have to review that. In addition, with the broadcast kind of disagreeing with that, but so he was pressured more than usual, and maybe that had some sort of impact as well. But yeah, we'll see how he kind of comes out of this. This is definitely the best defense he's seen in the last several weeks. And yeah, Narduzzi's known for doing some different things. And I think it's also those linebackers are really good and they can kind of put you in some weird positions and they do different things with the back end too. So it's not all on him, but you definitely don't want him seeing you want him seeing making mistakes where he's really pushing the ball downfield and throwing interceptions, not ones where the guy can walk into the end zone.
Nice popular culture there reference Dan Kelly. And yes, Tay Johnson is playing like Notre Dame's next great safety star. We talked about calling Notre Dame DBU or something between Ben Morrison and Leonard Moore. And you certainly are getting a case to make it safety U from Kyle Hamilton to Xavier Watts to Adon Schuler. Now Tay Johnson, really phenomenal safety play for the Irish, really good defensive play. My goodness, Drew, how far this defense has come after the first couple of weeks, really the first 10 quarters of the season when so much was going wrong to now it seems like so much is going right. And there's a lot of confidence, I believe, that Notre Dame's defense can carry it in games. And that confidence was not there on the home sidelines at halftime on September 20th when Purdue was marching up and down the field and the Irish were still 0-2.
Yeah, a lot of credit. I mean, credit goes to Chris Ash, also Marcus Freeman for how he handled it and getting involved and making a lot of those changes. I mean, I think you go back to Freeman's first season. Al Golden wasn't that great either. I think we remember the last two seasons, including last year when he won the Broyles Award, but that was the worst defense since 2016, Al Golden's first year. And after the season, they had to throw out a lot and make it simple. And I think we saw with Marcus Freeman, they've done a lot of different things. And I think that's one of them. We're not going to wait until the end of the year to start really simplifying things. And they've really gotten down to kind of the basics to a degree. And the team's playing with a lot of swagger and stuff, which is something that they need. And with that swagger, they still want to clean up some of those uncharacteristic penalties that they're still getting, except for last week. But I think overall, like they're creating the havoc plays. Again, 8 pass breakups, 10 hurries, 4 sacks, kind of 2 interceptions. Like they're getting their hands on the ball, and it's hard to beat Notre Dame when they're doing that.
Yeah, and to CJ Carr's credit, he completes passes today to 7 different receivers, really effective there, distributing the ball. Made Malachi Fields his favorite, but here we are 26 minutes deep into the show and just now mentioning Eli Raridan, a pox upon both of us for that. We should have long ago mentioned Eli Raritan. He had a huge early catch on a new wrinkle on a little swing out of the backfield where he's going in motion, and you think he's going to run block on a 3rd and short, and instead CJ Carr just pitches it to him, and he gets the necessary yardage. He was darn close to scoring that elusive touchdown this season. If he hadn't just barely stepped out of bounds on that play, I think he would have scored. And then another huge conversion for the Irish where he just sort of shirked a tackler and kept going. So Eli Raritan finishing with 6 receptions for 67 yards. Notre Dame with 0 charted drops for the final box score today. Malachi Fields and Eli Raritan catching a combined 13 passes on 20 targets. That's a 65% success rate. That's pretty darn good, Drew.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're definitely picking some nits in terms of Carr. I mean, those are some pretty glaring things, but he still had a pretty solid day overall against a defense that was doing a lot of things to confuse him. Um, as you said, I mean, Raritan continues to emerge. That was his first red zone or end zone target, excuse me, today on that 4th down pass to. So it was good to see them get Raritan involved a little more. And I think that was a way, despite how good Pitt's linebackers are, it does seem like they do struggle against tight ends. So this is a good game to kind of show off what Raritan can do. And he certainly did that.
And I like just reminding folks today that I like Mike Denbrock just reminding folks today that, hey, CJ Carr can move pretty decently. Like, he's not a statue back there, and officially credited with 5 attempts. And I don't dwell on that so much, but he looked nimble on his 7-yard TD run. That was a nice play. I just thought it was an important reminder to get that on video to say, yeah, he's going to throw it downfield on you every time he can, but he will, if you ignore him, have the ability to move the sticks and reset the downs and give himself and his offense a chance to strike downfield again by using his legs.
Yeah, and I thought that was a great block by Jeremiah Love too, kind of getting him involved. He kind of sealed it off in the end zone. And just want to note too on Love that he's 1,135 rushing yards in the season. That surpasses his total from last year. He also went over 1,000 yards in this game, and that makes him, I think, the 6th Notre Dame running back ever to have more than 1,000-yard rushing seasons too. So obviously, there's a lot still for Jeremiah Love to play for. He's did something today to kind of help keep pushing him towards that Heisman and some of those other award conversations. But we're definitely seeing some of those historic things out of him, and those are almost a little quiet just because of how spectacular some of his runs in. But just his kind of simple yardage today, I think, were really impressive. I think in addition to that long touchdown run, he had a couple, including the one where they were kind of coming out of their own goal line where he just kind of picked up 10 yards and something that should have been maybe 2 or 3. He did that a few times today too. And I think sometimes those are even underappreciated, or he hurdles a guy who's diving at his knees, and that's not as impressive as him going over somebody straight up. But you're just getting so used to the I guess just below spectacular that you almost don't appreciate just all the different things he does.
Yeah, for me, it was one of his runs near midfield, not the one that he uncorked and turned into a dazzling touchdown, but he had sort of a little hop skip where he got skinny when it looked like he was going to be hit, and he turned the play into maybe a 7-yard gain that just allowed Notre Dame to have an opportunity to sustain that drive, to continue moving the sticks, to continue giving its defense a break and not allowing Pitt to do anything offensively. That was probably my favorite run of the day for him. The way he almost turned his body sideways and got really skinny to avoid a defender, kept his feet, chugged forward to push the ball inside Pitt's 45-yard line. So if you watch the game and you're watching us now, go back and find that play. It was in the first half. I liked that move a lot from Jeremiah Love. Continued to show how special he was. All right, we've got some friends that are devoted listeners to the Irish Illustrated Insider podcast, and some friends on the platform, much like Prince, formerly known as Twitter, that like to call it the Beef for Brice segment, but the What's at Stake segment for Notre Dame around college football. I said we would talk about that before we wrapped up the show. Let's do that quickly here, Drew. Most of the games are happening right now or will happen tonight, like Oklahoma at Alabama. That's one to pay attention to. A third loss for Oklahoma would be good news for the Irish, because you don't want to see Oklahoma have a chance to finish 10-2 and potentially have in that 10-2 finish, a win over number 4 Alabama. The Sooners are up 3-0 right now near the end of the first quarter. Another key game tonight, Texas, Georgia. If you're Notre Dame, you're hoping to see Texas lose that contest and absorb a third loss that would more or less serve as a final condemnation of kicking the nation's preseason number 1 team completely onto the periphery of the playoff rankings. Michigan eked out a win. If you're Notre Dame, I'm not worried too much about Michigan as far behind as they are, but a loss today certainly wouldn't have hurt you. But the Wolverines get a last-second field goal. Cincinnati and South Florida both losing today in the 24 and 25 spots in the CFP rankings. Not massively good news for Notre Dame, but still good news. If you're sharing ranking space with a 2-loss team right now, you just want to see that ranking. You just want to see that 2-loss team, if you're Notre Dame, pick up a third loss sooner rather than later. South Florida. And plus, Navy beat South Florida, so that helps Notre Dame's strength of schedule, strength of record. So that's a double victory for Notre Dame on the CFP front. And then Cincinnati losing at home to Arizona. That's a blow for the Big 12 trying to get 2 teams in. It doesn't mean the Big 12 won't get 2 teams in. BYU, Utah, Texas Tech, still their best candidates there. Drew, your thoughts on those games and any other action around the horn today?
Yeah, I think the first 2 you noted, the Oklahoma versus Alabama and Texas versus Georgia, are, I mean, Notre Dame needed to win today and they need to win out to make the playoffs. But outside of that, those might be 2 of the most important games left for Notre Dame of the season, just because a worst case scenario would be if Texas and Oklahoma win close games, they would probably jump Notre Dame even after today's win. And then I'm not sure Georgia or Alabama would drop beneath them either. So that would push Notre Dame back to number 11. As you saw, if you watched on Tuesday, the number 11 team currently wouldn't be in the playoffs. It's only the top 10 to definitely be safe. I think you need to be in that top 9 because it's always possible that Texas Tech loses in that championship game for the Big 12, and then that would probably get 2 teams in from the Big 12 as well. So if you get Alabama and Georgia victories today, I think that really kind of solidifies gets rid of any doubt that Notre Dame won't make the playoffs if they go undefeated. So we'll see. It sounds like Alabama is now down 10-0. So that's definitely one to monitor. It is at home, and Alabama certainly could come back. But both those games are going to be really interesting today. And with Texas, even if they do win, they do have to play at Texas A&M, who eked out a close win today. So Texas could get another loss later. Oklahoma is probably the one that matters a little more because they think they play LSU and Missouri without Bo Przybilla. So they have a much more likelihood of winning out if they win today, whereas Texas still has about a 50-50 chance, according to ESPN, to win in the season finale against Texas A&M.
And one other that would go ahead and eliminate them from contention, bless you, but also would also be a ding against Notre Dame's strength of schedule. Iowa has already jumped on top of USC 14-0 in the Coliseum just minutes into the second quarter. So Oklahoma, a double-digit lead on the road at Alabama. Iowa, a double-digit lead on the road at USC. Virginia, the ACC's one-loss team and the leader in the conference right now, up 7-0 early on the road at Duke. That one bears monitoring just because the ACC in danger of being like the Group of 5 representative and having to be seated in that 11 and 12 range if they don't have a team close strong. But again, your point there is very valid, Drew. If you're Notre Dame, you're cheering for whatever. You're cheering for yourself to win first and foremost if you're Notre Dame. Then you're cheering for everything that can help keep you inside the top 10. And of most note in that regard today is you want Alabama to find a way to come back to win. You want Georgia to handle business at home against Texas. Anything else before we wrap up? This has been a fun one, a 35-minute show, a little bit longer, but we've had some good participation, always from Dan Kelly and Clinton Novak. Those guys are standard bearers. But anything else, Drew?
I mean, I think the Notre Dame keeps covering the spread. So if somehow those results that we just talked about don't go Notre Dame's way, they did. I mean, they could have won by a little more. We talked about 17 points being left on the field, but overall, Notre Dame just getting a dominant win over a ranked team on the road, never really in doubt. I think at least gives them a chance. They're doing almost all they can to control what they can, which is all you can ask from them at this point. They need to keep getting style points the rest of the way. That's something that the committee, now I guess former chair Mac Rhodes, has talked a lot about, kind of Notre Dame passing that eye test. There's a few coaches and a former player on the committee now, and that's certainly something they're highlighting. So overall, the things we've talked about with Notre Dame, like those things are going to matter because they're really watching the games, and Notre Dame looking dominant matters more than a lot at this point.
Pat Narduzzi's probably still calling timeouts. Pitt may still be chucking footballs into the Allegheny or the Monongahela or the Ohio rivers. It does not matter. Notre Dame is a 37 to 15 victor, 8 in a row. I do want to note again, Marcus Freeman improves to 21-6 away from Notre Dame Stadium since the start of the 2022 season. I did some research on that today. Unofficially, the only coach with a better mark in that time, Georgia's Kirby Smart, 24-4. But some superlatives there for Marcus Freeman, who has just proved he's really good away from home and taking this team into neutral settings or hostile environs and finding a way to win. Ryan Day over that same period, 19-4. Lincoln Riley over that same period, just 13-11. And Lane Kiffin over that same period, just 13-8. So that's going to wrap us up for today's Overtime Live. For my colleague at Irish Illustrated, Drew Mentock, for our erstwhile producer, Tom Zwiller, I am John Brice of footballscoop.com and Irish Illustrated. This has been Irish Illustrated Overtime Live, full written content all over the site. Tim O'Malley and Tim Priester on hand in Pittsburgh to bring you home with the written content until our Irish Illustrated Insider podcast on Monday, as well as our Irish Illustrated instant analysis coming out of Marcus Freeman's press conference. This has been the Irish Illustrated Overtime Live. Until the next one, enjoy this one.